So I appreciate each one of you that's spending it's hard to compete with the festival that's going around. I don't know if you're aware, but it is a film festival. I truly believe, Avi, that everyone has a story, and every stories matter, and that's why I'm here. I think we have, as a Jewish nation, have a very long story, and unfortunately, later on, I see that this story been not so clear. Not so clear in many places, not so clear even internally, not so clear inside Israel. Even though you're not going to hear about that a lot tonight. But I want to put some general ideas. You might get some knowledge tonight. You might have some questions. I really want the questions.
They're having trouble hearing on Zoom, so.
Okay, so.
The microphone is here, so. Whoops.
Is that better, the audience at home?
Start speaking.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
A little bit better.
A little bit better. Okay, I will try to go louder. Hopefully, is that all right?
You need to raise your voice a little bit.
I will try. Okay, so Josef Lapko, it's been almost a year and a half since we moved, and the second time to Tucson. We spent 4 years in Florida, and before that, 4 years in Tucson. I'll speak a little bit about myself, but I think we can do introduction by opening the night. That I don't
scroll down.
Yeah, I want to move that.
We'll build a new corridor of peace and prosperity that connects Asia through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, to Europe.
Just move it.
How do I do that? Do you know how to do that? Doing something new every day.
This is an extraordinary change, a monumental change, another pivot of history. 2 weeks ago, we saw another blessing already in sight. In the G20 conference, President Biden, Prime Minister Modi, and European
we just started, so welcome.
Announced plans for a visionary corridor that will stretch across the Arabian Peninsula and Israel. It will connect India to Europe with maritime links, rail links, energy pipelines, fiber optic cables. This corridor will bypass maritime checkpoints, or choke points, and dramatically lower the cost of goods, communication, and energy for over 2 billion people. What a historic change for my country. You see, the land of Israel is situated in the crossroads between Africa, Asia, and Europe. And for centuries, my country was repeatedly invaded by empires passing through it in their campaigns of plunder and conquest elsewhere. But today, as we tear down the walls of enmity, Israel can become a bridge of peace and prosperity between these continents. Peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia will truly create a new Middle East. You know, a few years ago, I stood here with a red marker to show the curse, a great curse, the curse of a nuclear Iran. But today I bring this marker to show a great blessing, the blessing of a new Middle East between Israel, Saudi Arabia, and our other neighbors. We will not only bring down barriers between Israel and our neighbors, we'll build a new corridor of peace and prosperity that connects Asia through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, This is an extraordinary change, a monumental change, another pivot of history. We'll build a new corridor of peace.
Okay, so this is me. I born in Russia. I moved to Israel when I was 6 years old. I spent in Israel about 22 years. I served in the chief commander of the Central of Israel, which means 80% of Israeli army population is controlled by the Central Command under colonel supervision. So I had, thank God, the chance to visit probably in the 99% of every army base from north to south, secret, not secret. At least once a year, we used to come, do our checks. And as a reserve for many years after, we used to do it, come with nice helicopters, surprise people in the middle of the night. That was part of my job. And besides being a soldier, I served in different nonprofits, and I got to meet a lot of different people and a lot of different perspectives. I got some Bibi and Sarah and Fauda guys, Ben Shapiro and Danino, the chief police officer. So I will share my perspective and my perspective only, and you can beat me later. But I'm more than welcome to have questions and understand the gap of knowledge or where you want me to focus more. But I will try to understand what's going on, where we are, what's the Middle East that we are living right now. Still struggling?
No, I just wanted to put on original.
Okay.
I wanted to.
So I want to ask you, be short, but how you connected to Israel? Feel free. Go ahead.
I was born there
Okay, how you connect right now? The past 3 months.
with my family, with my thinking, with my following what's going on, with unable even to do things that if I would be, let's say, 28 years younger, I will not be here, I will be there.
Jump on the plane and just do what you need to do. Okay, great. Anybody else want to share?
24/7 news cycles, connection with family, lost some family members in this most recent conflict. It's very, very difficult times. Sleep. Many Vahadat. It's been very rough.
Anybody else?
Well, it seems only the Israeli born are speaking. So I'm born and raised in Israel. And I have friends that like to change Bibi yesterday, and they're working and got a lot of people to have elections in April. On the one extreme, I have other friends, Haredim, that say Israel should really don't stop, and if hostages die, so be it. And I don't want to lose one Israeli soldier if million Palestinians in Gaza die. It's a very bad, immoral, my friend. And he's, PhD from MIT, and a professor, happened to be Haredi. So I have friends on both gamuts, and I talk to them at least daily to somebody and weekly to everybody that I'm in contact.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. So my personal, the first day in October 7, I wanted to jump on the plane, even if the planes are not flying. All my friends are in the army, commanders, generals. My personal news is looking for the names that I know, hoping that are not going to be there. Unfortunately, we lost friends, we lost family members. This is my friends, okay? That's real pictures. That's a good friend of mine. I know each one of them, each one of the back of these guys. And that's the hello that I'm getting, right? I'm getting a random picture of my good friend who's a commander. That's a very nice hello, by the way, right? Timchet Zecher Amalek with my signature on it. That's in the middle of Gaza. Or I got a signature of Timchet Zecher Amalek Be'avat Israel with my signature on it on a bomb, and then the results of square mile that created because of that bomb. And I know that every square mile of that is full of terrorists, right? So they're doing some good job. But at the same time, we continue to be worried, and a lot of work needs to be done. I am part of Vegas, New York, Miami, and a few other cities that collected together about $7.5 million of supplies so far, and we're still going. And we moved to civilian needs, but the army was needed crucially at the beginning. So thank God being here, wanted to be there, but finally I make peace with that, with the fact that we can do much more by sitting here. So that's my daily news. So I think most of us know that, but let's just some perspective, right? Does anybody see Israel?
Yeah, the phone number.
Yeah? Does anybody see Israel compared to the global? It seems like we're all in the news 24/7. So just for a little bit perspective, right? Israel is the blue dot, and Yehuda v'Shomron, West Bank, as you don't like it, is the red dot, and Gaza is somewhere on the left, on the southwest, even smaller. Gaza is 28 kilometers, is third of the size of the Chatzi Ha'i Krim, which Russia took a long time ago in 48 hours. So that could be done in very short time, 48 hours. We did much larger population in 6-day war. And here we are, day number 102, and still going. But I want to talk about a very old game. It's called Shachmat. And the big player of Shachmat, and really the people who take the knowledge of King Solomon, Melech Shlomo, into new level, is the Parsim. Today is the Iranian. Iran is really the player, as we all know, even though they tried to go different route at the beginning. But Iran is playing, and so far they're playing very well, but they didn't lost even one soldier, right? One Iranian doesn't die, doesn't suffer, right? It's all last soldiers that they're sending away. And you guys have to understand that for Iranian who truly believe that he's a generation from the king Daryavesh of 3,000 years generation, for them the Palestinians or the Gaza people or even the people in Lebanon, Shia or Sunni, if you don't know anything, please raise your hand, right? I would love to add.
Talking about when he says Darius, that's Darius in English.
So the king, and they are a generations of wealth, generations of kingdom, and the way they see United States is a very young, spoiled country. A few hundred years ago, we still have no idea what are we doing. Israel is like a baby of the babies. And for them, from this point of view, we don't need to be on this earth so ever. Iran is facing two options that are coming very nearby. One option is they are going to get to the point that they will have a nuclear weapon, and that will change completely the demographic in the world. Or they're going to get to the point that Israel is going to be so pissed off together with the United States, and then we're going to bomb and make some damage inside Iran. One of another options, they've been preparing in the past 3.5, 4 years, attack that will happen if one of these options will reach to the point. And the plan is, again, by documents that we're finding, by intelligence and so on, it was a multiple stage attack that's been planned, funded, prepped, well prepped. The goal was attack by Yemenites from the south, the Houthim. It's a group that it's separate 1 hour, who they are and what the heck they want from us. But the Houthim is a small group in Yemenite. They had nothing else to lose besides killing, and they hate everybody around them. We have Hamas inside the Gaza. We have Hezbollah, a huge part, it's almost a third of Lebanon in the north. And we have some group of Iranian in Syria. Plus we have Arabs in Yehuda Shomron inside of Israel. Plus we have the Israeli Arabs that carrying on Israeli passports, but carrying, I mean, last time I was in Yerushalayim was about 5,000 non-legal weapons only in one village next to the Kotel. For references, in the most highest holidays, Sukkot and Pesach, Israel have about 5,000 soldiers and police officers in Yerushalayim versus one village with 5,000 weapons, non-legal weapons that we know about, right? So it's not a fair game. The goal is everybody's preparing, funded, and waiting for the action goal and the green light by Iranian. October 7, a big miracle happens. Iranians see that the government in Israel is very weak because people are fighting in the streets. Again, in the Arab way, the way they understand the situation. We are fighting inside Israel. For them, it's too complicated. 11 judges, 5 judges, this legal system, that system. The way they see it, we are fighting. We don't have agreements. The pilots signing agreements that they're not going to fly, which means the army is collapsing. The tech companies claiming that they're never going to invest ever again in Israel, which is going the other direction despite the fact. In the way they understand the situation is the best time to act. Adding to that, in Simchat Torah, which has never happened before, 3,000 young kids, teenagers, lots of alcohol in the body, lots of drugs in the body, dancing, and at the peak, when they're the most tired after a long night of dancing, over 3,000 people attacked. The goal and the plan was that Lebanon will follow the same day, Yehuda Shomron will follow the same day, and the Israeli Arabs will follow the same day, or at least in the next 48 hours. The plan based on the documents for you to understand, and I mark all the nuclear and the army bases of Israel on the map. The goal was for the first 24 hours to take control of all the south side of Israel until Beersheba, including nuclear, including two major army base of flying. Same thing in the north, taking until Tzomet Golani, for the people who know, taking the entire 10 nice kilometers or 15 kilometers in the north. Israel is a very narrow country. You cannot move people up and down. Center of Israel is collapsing by people of Yehuda Shomron. And here we are, we're back to 1948 with thousands of casualties. Hezbollah has about 5,000 rockets that are target, which means they can fly to exact point that we want, right? We're going to talk about a little bit later how Israel is depending and how Israel oil, water, gas, electricity, etc., is currently operating and why it's so critical in what's happening in the north. But really, I want to explain that this is a huge miracle. Yes, we lost thousands of people. We have 6,000 injured. We're going to see for years people with no legs and no arms walking in Israel's street because there's more than 3,000 of them. It's a new environment in Israel for the next generation. But at the same time, that's a miracle compared to what was supposed to happen.
إسرائيل دولة لا مقام لها على أرضنا، إحنا الدولة لابد أن نزيلها، لأنه بالفعل هي تعتبر كارثة أمنية وعسكرية وسياسية للأمة العربية والإسلامية، يجب أن تنتهي. لذلك إحنا لا نخجل من نقول ذلك بكل قوة، إسرائيل لازم نقدمها، وحنقدمها مرتين وثلاثة، ومش هذا حتكون طوفان الأقصى أول مرة، لا حتكون ثانية وثالثة ورابعة، لأنه إحنا لدينا إصرار ولدينا قرار ولدينا إمكانيات أن نقاوم ونحارب، لكن كما قلت لك بدنا ندفع ثمن. نعم إحنا مسعدين، معلش أقول لك بشكل واضح، احنا اسمنا شعب الشهداء ونفخر ان نقدم شهداء، احنا لا نريد ان نمس لا بالمدنيين ولا ان نلحق الاذى بهم، لكن اوقات لانه في تعقيدات في الميدان صارت في منطقه موجوده وكان هناك في احتفال وكان في سكان، منطقه واسعه ليست سهله على امتداد تقريبا 40 كيلومتر، يجب ان ننتهي. ان ينتهي وين؟ بقطاع غزه؟ لا بتكلم عن كل اراضي فلسطين. كل الاراضي الفلسطينيه يعني زوال اسرائيل؟ وجود اسرائيل غير منطقي. وجود اسرائيل هو اللي بخلق كل هذه الالام والعذابات والدموع والدماء. هي اسرائيل مش احنا ضحيه الاحتلال متوخص. لذلك ما حدا يلومنا، احنا شو اللي بنعمل؟ 7 اكتوبر، في 10 اكتوبر، في مليون اكتوبر، احنا اللي بنعمل مبرر. It is justified. مبرر.
It is justified. Sorry. Hamas is under major problem. They losing a lot of people, and their brothers and sisters are not joining, not from the north. Israel evacuated the majority of people from the north. They put almost 1,000 people in the north, almost 100,000 people in the north. And what they should do, right? They acknowledging the fact, and Iran is saying it very loud and clear, we don't care about you. To us you are very replaceable. Louder? Okay. You are very replaceable people, and you do it once, you're going to do it again. You're going to do what you need to do, and it's fine on one hand. On the other hand, the plan that Iran been putting together for 3 years blew up. They cannot surprise us again, right? Even though some people very quickly forgetting the history, and you can starting to hear some weird voices inside Israel that anyway, I'm not going to go there because that's going to make me very sad. But let's understand a little bit of what's going on the map. Right now, as we're speaking, we have for sure Iranian involvement all the way through. They even funding very nice amount of money through Qatar to pay South African to go to Hague and claim against Israel for genocide. It's very ironic to see South Africa claiming against Israel for genocide, but that's the reality we are living in. United States heavily involved. Russia involved. If you want to know how and where, I will be happy to share. Azerbaijan is very involved. We're going to touch about it. Yemenite is involved. Egypt is involved. And we don't want to call it, but that's a World War III. Don't forget we have also Ukraine and Turkey and Russia. So it's very fun to live in the Middle East. But let's unpack it and pack it again in the time that will allow us. The international community claiming against Israel again and again that we should focus only on Hamas and try our best to eliminate the people of Gaza. According to Hamas official numbers, I stopped counting, but it's hundreds of thousands of people dying. Again, I don't know if you can believe them, but that's the only number that the international media is following, since no other numbers are being released. So I don't know how can you believe to that number, but still the international community does believe that. Yes.
In the last time we had to go into Jenin,
Yes.
and we were, I think it was, which upper to 2000.
Chomat Magen, yeah.
And we had gone through the walls between the houses. At that time, I don't remember which Palestinian organization it was at the time.
PLO.
Like 50,000 people were killed, all of them civilians. Then they're like, oh, well, only 5,000.
Right.
And then they dropped it down to 500.
Correct.
And then they keep on.
So on that point is no soldiers died until now, not even one, right? That's very strange. Number two is some people don't gonna like what I'm saying, but Hamas is Gaza, Gaza is Hamas. Okay, I will repeat that. Hamas is Gaza, Gaza is Hamas.
Yeah, this is from the beginning, from 2005.
Correct. In 2005, Israel left at the last point. We were going to talk about it a little bit later. We lost every inch. We left them beautiful houses, greenhouses. We left every single inch. And we've been convinced, and every politician been convinced, including Benjamin Netanyahu, that this is going to be the prosperity of the country. That's going to be a Singapore. That's going to be Dubai. And unfortunately, Hamas population went to public they had a democracy, the way you want to put democracy election. And the election they chose, Hamas. In fact, Israel is trying to provocative for the past 10 years, same process in Yehuda v'Shomron, because as soon as Israel will take their foot away, they will turn into Hamas government in Yehuda v'Shomron as well. When you enter into the Gaza today, 99% of the houses, and we are shocked again and again, and the pictures and the evidence that we're getting from the houses, is that there is no one house with no weapons in the bedrooms, is no one house without any type of terror tools or educational materials. Every single street is named by the heroes that related to terror. I mean, Mein Kampf, as far as I know, they're not so popular in Amazon books, but apparently they're very popular in Gaza. Same as yesterday, by the way, this store being destroyed, but the store name is Hitler 2, right? And it's resonant, right? It goes from a very, very young generation, from zero, and that's the goal. The goal is how much hate you can inject into your little body. So it's very hard, but when you look at the babies, normal baby has a stage of growing, right? And the first in kindergarten, first you learn to read, you learn to write, then you do math. When you look, unfortunately, in the Gaza kids, they've been learning a completely different sets of skills. Correct, but at the same time, if it's a very complicated situation that I don't think, I mean, we had as a US in Afghanistan and Iraq, we had some difficulties that are similar to that. Well, we never had, thank God US didn't have it, but the opportunity or the challenge, how do you deal with thousands of kids that are operating pumps and missiles, and in their backpacks they're carrying bombs. They are soldiers without the uniform. Interesting point. That's a good friend. His name is Eli. And that's his after 100 days in Gaza. Every single house from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Does anybody wants to explain what does that mean?
That they move the Jewish people to Texas, so kill them.
Okay, who's going to fund the move to Texas? So,
But the joke was Jew power.
Juhol. Okay. So if it's not clear, and unfortunately it's very fun, right? Everybody's keeping the phrase the same thing, but from the river to the sea means no more place for the Jewish nation to be in the border of Israel land. So from the river, from the Jordan River to the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, means no Jewish state. It's not two-state solution, it's one-state solution, Palestinian solution, with no Jews on it. Every names are original names based on the Arab biblical understanding, right? So they claiming for Haifa, they claiming for Tel Aviv, they claiming for Yerushalayim. It's not about 1968, it's not about two-state solution. For them it's very clear, and you see it in every house. And finally, you see a very big and very large historical understanding. And also, every house have Al-Aqsa Mosque in their living room, in their bedrooms, in every single corner. How many of you have Third Temple picture, or how many of us have it in our houses, right? How many of us have in every bedroom a picture of the Temple Mount? Do we? Do we dream about it? Do we want anything to do without it? They are. They are, and they're really understanding why they're fighting and for what they're fighting from zero. And finally, Egypt. They are cousins. They're carrying the same last names many times. They are carrying sometimes dual passport. We're going to talk about Egypt in a second, but we have a lot of claims against everybody, including the Red Cross. Red Cross did an amazing job. By the way, Magen David is part of the Red Cross. We are Israelis jumping in every suicide mission, Greek, Turkey, every place. Magen David is the first one. IDF is the first one. So far, I don't see any international really working themselves to help the Israeli hostages. But when they did release hostages, the Red Cross was there on every single picture and video. But that's not a big surprise. It's very easy to find out. Auschwitz, 1944, the Red Cross did their checkup. And here's the report, guys. They didn't found any major evidence for any genocides or any activity that needs their interference. The history shows a little bit different. So, few days of saving, it means about 10,000 Jews in every day. That's really unfortunately. Can we do different? Can we take it to the other way? So, as a kid, in 91, in 1992, we used to have trips to Gaza. That was not a fun trip. You need like a one extra garden with like a pistol to go with you, or rove matate, carabin, if you know what it is, right? As something that maybe is gonna work, maybe not. But that was a trip. You take a bus and you see the beautiful place that's called Gaza. Has a nice beach, has nice views. It's a desert, but also have water. That's actually the news in 1995, right? Claiming how Nike, Reebok, and Adidas was planning to build fabs in Gaza using Palestinian workers and under Israeli management, and turn Gaza, Bekarov, right? Soon, Gaza will turn into Singapore. Singapore is very similar size to Gaza. It's actually, they started their opportunity in 1965, not too far away. The major difference is Singapore is growing up their structure and Gaza is building down. I didn't mention, but part of my job is I'm a strategical consulting. And lately, I had the opportunity to work with the Emirates and Azerbaijan, a little bit with Ukraine, a lot with Israel. And I was really amazed that as soon as the Abraham agreement been signed, apparently 320 companies, Israeli companies, already been established in Dubai before the agreement being signed. Which means a lot of entrepreneurs already saw the opportunity way, way before. They had to fly around, but you can do differently. That's a mosque, synagogue, and a church in Dubai under one amazing facility. You have already 4 or 5 kosher restaurants in Dubai. That's a wedding of Chabad rabbi not a while ago. Some Tucson folks went to this wedding. Yeah, you can do it a little bit differently. And this is still kicking, right? Doesn't go anywhere. That's Dubai, that's the Emirates. Does anybody heard the name Rabbi Israel Najara? There's a famous street in Givat Shaul in Yerushalayim, Rabbi Israel Najara. Part of Zmirot Shabbat, part of the psalms that we're singing in Shabbat, one of them actually, has been written by Israel Najara. Small fact, Rabbi Israel Najara was the last chief rabbi of Gaza. In fact, the most biggest synagogue that we can find, it's not Matzada. The most oldest and largest synagogue that had been destroyed by the Arabs by now, but was in Gaza. Until Tarpat, the pogroms in 1929, was actually a large community. The last community was 50 families, but they went slowly and slowly and slowly. But you have hundreds of documents about it, and it was a major Jewish yeshuv in Gaza. We left Gaza in 2005, living beautiful houses, tearing ourselves apart by brothers fighting with brothers, soldiers or commanders who got a command to take your own family from your own house. It's not an easy task, taking your uncles, taking your brothers, taking your best friends from their houses. And I personally believe you can agree or disagree with me. I don't care, but I think the punishment for October 7 needs to be also by land, and which means we tried, we tested, we paid a very big price for it. We took 10,000 of our brothers and our sisters and our friends outside of land hoping for peace. We got the opposite. I think the plan didn't work. So if you are a good manager, if the plan doesn't work, you change it. So part of that needs to be a punishment by land, because that's the way Arab head is understanding. Israel shared a border with Gaza, but also Egypt. In fact, Egypt shared a larger border with Gaza than Israel. So why the entire conversation is not about Egypt? They sharing last names, they sharing in-laws, some folks sharing dual passports, and they still cannot get in. Egypt don't allow one single Palestinian to enter, no matter how bad his situation is, no matter how high he would be. The only way to get into Egypt is before the craziness, the price was $5,000 in shekel. I mean, the Palestinian works in Gaza who going to work in Israel was between 150 to 200 shekels, like $60 a day, $50 a day. So 5,000 shekels, $5,000 is a lot of dineros. You have to pay 5 to 10,000 depending on your situation, and you will be escorted through the tunnels to Egypt, from Egypt to a long, long story. And this is the people that you're meeting here in Tucson or in Germany or in Canada. How are you, my friend? Where are you from? And he will tell you, I'm from Palestine, right? Thousands of them took that path over the years, especially the young one who really saw the opportunity that they don't want to continue to be in this place. But we still have 1.8 million people in Gaza. So Egypt doesn't want them. And the question is why? The clear answer is because they know them. That's unfortunate. Sisi, the prime minister, the army general and the prime minister of Egypt, really understanding the numbers, and he has a bad history of Muslim Brotherhood that fight inside of Sinai Desert, and also previously, so, it's been almost 10 years of battles, and he doesn't want another 1 million people like that in his house. That's it. He's just, I don't want any of them. That's very clear strategy. And if Hamas will flee, they already have both ISIS, major two areas of Sinai Desert. So additional hundreds of thousands of people into that area will be not a fun situation for Sisi. So he's trying to avoid that in any way. Jordan, also a key player, we should also have a peace agreement with Israel. Jordan is 80%. That's official numbers, but I'll tell you the non-official number. The non-official number is almost 80% of Jordan is refugees or Palestinians who moved there in the first or second or third generation. Jordan gives them everything except the voting opportunity. So 80% of the people in Jordan don't have the voting opportunity, which means only the king, if you're close to the king or to the king royalty family, you have a way to survive. Otherwise, you're a class B, C, or D citizen. So fleeing so many people, additional people, Palestinians, that will be additional refugees, that will turn Jordan into not a positive situation. That's why Jordan is one of the most vocal countries that pushing for Al-Aqsa and two-state solution, and right, because they don't want the problem to come to them, so they want to have, in Hebrew we'll say fraya, right? We want a different fryer to deal with the situation, and that's the little state of Israel. That's the reality. On the global map.
If I may,
Sure.
If I may add, Jordan, they had almost from 1948 to 1967, okay? They had half of Jerusalem. So they know the mentality of those Arabs that we call them, not we, but they are being called Palestinians when they are not Palestinians at all, okay? The Palestinians, like I mentioned before, that nobody was over here yet. We are only 2 or 3 people over here. A Palestinian is only a person that was born before 1948. And all the rest are all murderers that they want to continue what Hitler started, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, thank you. Palestinian it's separate 2 hours. The Palestinian really came and established by Romans. part of the punishment to the area of Syria, Palestina. And we kept that name even before. And to your point, if you are a refugee from a country, right? If you moved from Ukraine to Canada, who you are, a refugee. If you had kids, does your kids born in Canada are refugees? Yes or no?
No.
No. If their kids went to the best university in Canada, having a best diploma, and they have kids, does the grandkid is a refugee? No, except one place. The UN or UNRWA already funding, and that's us, our and your taxes, paying for that. We are funding the 4th generations of refugees. Why? It's very good for them. Why should they stop being refugee? But it's common sense. Refugee cannot be a 4th generation. Move on. Watch Singapore. So, a little bit of what's going on around us. We seeing more and more attacks from the Houthis, from the Yemenites on Yam Suf, right? U.S. is really involved heavily here and here. And it's really attacking Eilat, which is the south point of Israel. Right now, that's the kind of the 3rd leg of this operation or war. And what's Russia really trying to create together with Iran is that the chain of supply of most of the goods will be depending on Russia, Iran, versus Mumbai, India, from India to the Middle East through Saudi Arabia. Again, if the agreement would be signed, and we had a very few months before the agreement was supposed to be signed, right? The chain of supply, which is major, that's China, India, that's the most biggest 2 suppliers of the chain, will go through Israel, and from Israel, Haifa, then to Cypher, Europe, and so on. So that's one way to do chain of supply versus another. That's really, if you follow the money, that's the way it goes. So let's zoom in a little bit to understand what's going on in Israel. Rabbi, how are we on time? Okay. Until the year 2000, Israel was heavily depending their energy on importing coal, until we're starting to find by Chevron and Tshuva and other, if you've been around the news in 2000, you know that Israel is starting to find natural gas, not in across Haifa and Tel Aviv. So we have Karish and Tamar and Leviathan and more smaller that are coming across. And we are getting to the point that more than 70% actually by last year of electricity in Israel is supported by Israel gas. The Negev has a major sun, so we have a lot of solar systems on the south, but the plan by 2045 to be one of the major suppliers of natural gas to Europe and probably to the world. And a lot of big companies, including Chevron, are heavily invested in that. Now, understand that and know that Hezbollah in Lebanon is sitting here with 5,000 rockets that can go to a direct point. Oil supply coming through Israel is heavily, right? There is no Israeli food with no oil. That doesn't exist. So oil is big, but also other oil, not only in the kitchen. The oil pipeline is really coming to us through some of that coming from Kazakhstan, some of that coming from Azerbaijan. That's the majority. Some of that coming from West Africa. But again, it's coming in through the sea, right? So we have Haifa, we have Ashkelon, and we have Eilat. Eilat is not so popular because it's much smaller. But in Haifa and Ashkelon and Ashdod, We also have a Chinese operation, right? By the way, this week they claim that they're closing their operation, which is creating the chaos that I'm just starting to show you, right? If China is closing their operation in one of the three major water port, that really affects Israel. So what do we see here as the way we spoke? Water, it's a very hot place, right? We know from here that we have one major source of water. We are really in problem. Israel have three major sources of water, but still most of the water comes from the north, and we are moving, we're moving a lot of water from place to place. So knowing this water, Israel makes water from the sea, processing the salty water from the sea and turn it into drinkable water. Again, that's a critical strategical point that if you attack them by Hezbollah, by direct points, Tamar, Leviathan, water, cutting the oil supply to Israel and the additional pressure from inside of Israel, Israel is in the very critical strategical point. Hezbollah have over 60 to 100,000 trained, equipped soldiers. That's not Hamas, that's not Gaza, that's not gamers. Lebanon is mountains, like the Golan Heights. If you try to climb the Mount Lemon with a tank, and then you have an ambush on the first tank, no matter how long is your chain, you're stuck. Lebanon troopers are teams of 3 people on RVs, thousands of them. That's a completely different game. That's why we are pushing the time to go inside Lebanon. Lebanon current currency is 150% under inflation, so you are subject to take from ATM maximum $300, no matter how many millions you have. And it's really hard. So Lebanon really understands that if IDF and US Army will go into Lebanon, that's going to be the end of this country. It's a beautiful country, but that's going to take them 100 years back. So without saying, Hezbollah is more than 30% of the political influence, but also the military. So on one hand, Lebanon doesn't want to fight, but on the other hand, they owe a lot of money to Iran. So they're kind of trying to say, we're stuck between the big daddy and our finish of our country. Iran have leftovers of Pakistani and Afghanistani from their internal war, so they have a lot of troops, 5,000 there, 50,000 there, that basically are staying inside the country for a while, training and waiting, and they really bored. And that's very not fun situation to keep so many people armed and born. You have to give them something to do. It's like kids with weapons. Iran has its own problems, many problems, but they have a major problem that's called Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan to the north of Iran, Iran is the red, Azerbaijan is the yellow. The green, sorry. The yellow is the south part of Azerbaijan that's called the Iranian Azerbaijan. But the Azerbaijan, the green one, have a very strong relationship with Israel. In fact, the Mossad have a very strong base in Azerbaijan. We are supporting Azerbaijan for years to be Etzem Bagaron, right? To stuck in the north part of Iran and to help Azerbaijan to fight Albania, right? Azerbaijan have area that controlled by Armenia. So Iran supporting Armenia to protect this small area. Israel is helping Azerbaijan full-time to control that area, because then they will continue to make stronger border with the south part of which is half and half Iranian Azerbaijanians to create a stronger border and be a pain in the butt for Iran from the north. So they will be busy there and leave us alone. Yes.
Yossi, the airplane that came from Israel and was attacked at the airport, was that
Azerbaijan?
that one?
How long
Was that
ago?
them?
There's a few
Like
stories.
a month and a half ago. That plane landed and then
No,
thousands of people.
That was Russia.
It was Russia?
It was
Part of
Russia.
Russia.
Yeah. I mean, the one that there was like that
Yeah,
pogrom on the
they tried to like.
that was part of Russia, like a very weird.
Yeah. Chechnya, yeah.
Was it Chechnya?
Yeah.
Chechnya. Isn't it ironic, Yossi, that Iran is supporting the Christians in Armenia, and the Israelis are supporting the Shia Muslims in Azerbaijan?
So it's a good point, a good question. Again, I will repeat how Iranian can support Shia, Sunni, and Christian. It's a chess game. I can hate you, but if you have a critical point and serve, I will use you to your last piece. The Iranian, the way they see it, and they say it loud based on their culture, based on their songs, based on their literature, the way they see the Palestinian in Gaza, it's unfortunately the garbage of the garbage. They called it in Arabic the replaceable people. You have 1,000, a new 1,000 will come. That's how the Iranian mind is thinking about them. They sitting in the most comfortable places in the palaces that are 3,000 years old, and you have a group of people that are whatever they think they are, from zero, they educating themselves to killed. It's very convenient. Give them a little bit of dollars and they will kill themselves. No one Iranian bombed themselves ever in the world. Not commit suicide ever in the world. It's all they use someone else to do that. So, again, that's the part of the reason why U.S. Army is here on the south of Iran and controlling the water, supporting Israel from the water, and protecting the Chevron points, because if natural gas will be attacked, it's a major catastrophe. And also protecting the south part of the water, Yam Suf, against the Houthim, because again, that can turn on to a very critical chaos situation. Yes, sorry.
So it was a big factor for Iran.
Yes, so my answer will be in two parts. And the question is I will repeat the question that is Hamas, and correct me if I'm wrong, is Hamas done or anticipated or being afraid from the agreement, or Iran controlling? So the answer is like this. A, the Palestinian tried in every agreement to say, well, we also want to be part of it. Well, you're going to talk business with Dubai, but what about us? And every time the conversation was, many years ago, was 90-10, 90% Palestinian, 10% business, until it turns to 100% or 99% business, and sorry, Palestinians, we don't really care about you. You're just making problems. So more and more countries sign agreements with Israel, Morocco relationship, Dubai relationship, and so on, and the Palestinians seeing through their eyes how their subject is turning more and more far away. So yes, to answer your question, basically, if the last agreement will turn a very big crucial piece in the geographic space, that will put the Palestinian even more far away. They did piss off Iran by attacking without Iran's permission. Iran didn't want to talk to them for a few days. Hamas calling Iran, Iran doesn't answer.
Didn't you say that Iran was planning for all of their proxies to attack on that same day?
Yes, it's been well prepared, well trained, well funded for years.
So what do you mean a Hamas attack without?
The goal was attack from all points, right? North, south. They didn't coordinate. They saw opportunity. They thought that's the best case. It's a holiday. We have opportunity of so many young people, and they just thrive. The miracle, as we say, instead of flying in and taking bases with maps, they had maps, they have a list of HR, who's working where, the accesses to the offices, to critical, very critical places in Israel. Instead of that, they went for Tami Arba, water bottle, toys, all kinds of weird stuff. That's big
Advantage to us.
miracle to us, luck for them. That's a 1 minute conclusion of the situation in Israel. But what I really want is, okay, we're gonna go off the back.
Day 101 of the war in Gaza.
2 days ago.
Much of the military activity focused on IDF attempts to move toward Hamas leadership in and under the southern Gaza terrorist stronghold, Khan Yunis. IDF troops of the 98th Division and the Air Force struck and raided a Hamas command center in the city and destroyed a weapons depot. Soldiers spotted Hamas operatives loading a truck with weapons and called it an airstrike. The truck was destroyed. The 7th Armored Brigade raided a Hamas command center in the southern Gaza city, locating a cache of weapons. Troops seized assault rifles, handguns, grenades, RPGs, and diving equipment belonging to Hamas's naval forces. 2 other weapons depots were destroyed in Khan Yunis, and other caches of weapons were found in various buildings, including the home of a Hamas operative. Tensions on the northern front reached a boiling point and stand ready to explode after the killing of 2 Israeli civilians in their homes by Hezbollah rocket fire. The IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari vowed a heightened military response to the anti-tank missile attack on Kfar Yuval, killing a member of the town's local security team and his mother in their home. The price for this will be exacted now and in the future, Hagari said. Barak Ayalon, aged 45, and his mother Miri Ayalon, 76, were killed when the anti-tank missile slammed into their home in the largely evacuated border community. U.S. President Joe Biden marked the 100th day since the Hamas October 7th rampage with a statement that America is working to bring home the 136 innocent hostages, including as many as 6 Americans who are still being held by Hamas in Gaza. 100 days in captivity in Gaza is far too long, tweeted U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Pro-Israel rallies were held in a number of major cities around the world to mark Day 100 of the war. The message demanded the return of the hostages. Major rallies were held in Central Park in New York and other large cities around the U.S. Many thousands took part in a pro-Israel rally in London's Trafalgar Square.
Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality.
Our prophet Yeshayahu וגר זאב עם כבש ונמר עם דיר בץ. Despite all what's going on, we always hope and pray and want a world peace, but at the same time, we want to do it in the best way what we can do. So that's everything that I have for you tonight, and I am open for any questions. We'll go this way. Go ahead.
It's not a question. My point is that I think that the world right now, starting with Israel and with the United States, they don't have this explanation or information to the world. And there is a problem that the media right now, they are on the side of those Arabs, that I call them murderers. I don't call them Palestinians because there is no such a thing, Palestinian. They are all Arabs, they are all murderers, starting with October 7, that they planned it, but they failed the plan originally, thanks God. But we need to find a way how to give this, not step by step, what you just brought to us, that it will be to the knowledge of the public over here. Also, it looks to me that only from listening to you, I think that the Iranian, they were smarter than the whole world when they realized the timing, even if it's over 100 days ago, but they already planned it in advance because they knew that there is also inside the United States the time of probably changing the government.
To your point, Qatar been funded according to legal documents, been funding about $2 billion in the past 3 years, the major universities in the United States. In exchange for that investment, you need to open facilities, researches, hire people, and the money talks, right? If you donating to Yale or Harvard, etc., X amount of money, so you have X amount of PhDs and the topics that you want to push. And unfortunately, we are out of numbers. We're really, really trying on the media, but every post that I'm posting with thousands of people, I have 200 billion comments, so it's very hard. Israel is really trying. Israel is really trying. And also inside of Israel, to your point, and I'm with you in a second, Israel, to your point, is also have internal, I don't want to say crisis, but internal thinking moment, right? They always said what they're planning to do to us, loud and clear. They have manuals about it. We just never listened or read that. Because we don't read Arabic, right? We're living, remember the first slide? The green slide? We're living across 200 countries, and we Israelis don't know how to speak Arabic. We're thinking we're living in New York, right? We are consuming US and Britain and Europe society, Nike and the brands and etc. We're living in the Middle East. We need to think the way the Middle East is operating. So that's changing a little bit. Right?
I have a problem with 24,000 Palestinians died.
Yes.
Okay. Problem is, Israel doesn't dispute that.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything. And not just this, every day, 1,000 people died in Gaza. I have a question. Who killed them? Hamas or Israel? And if Israel killed them, if the Hamas killed them, why Israel doesn't say anything? And I don't think it happened like that. Every day, 1,000 people die. I don't think so.
I'll ask you a question. In Dresden, if more people would die in Germany than in England, does that make the German more right than in the England? Because what the media are trying to take you is to the numbers. And the numbers, yes, war is terrible. It's crucial. If you take the story, that's the way the media works. It takes a one-person story and make a big whole scene of it. That's terrifying. That's really testing our moral veins. But in the same time, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, or in any, I'm not saying we should do the same thing, but wars are terrible. The alternative, if Israel was not trying, we can end this war in one day. October 8th was no more Gaza. No more people. Air Force. United States did that multiple times. in much larger scale. We don't have afraid from Japanese, ever.
Well, it seems
We don't also have afraid from Mexico. But the price this country paid are crucial.
Yeah, I understand, but it seems to me the Hamas lying because the Minister of Health, the Hamas Minister of Health, every day says, so they want the world to feel sorry for the Palestinians and say, oh, Israel doing genocide.
It's not the Hamas, it's the media.
Yeah.
And the media also, and Israel
The
doesn't
media
dispute.
Yeah.
Why Israel doesn't dispute? Why they don't say it's not?
They say, but it's again, it's a number game. Israel's saying, but it's not.
The
There's no
reality,
civilians.
Israel doesn't know how many people are killed.
There's other questions.
Sure. Sorry.
I'm
Okay. Comment.
I reviewed my question and decided.
Okay.
I recently read that Hamas was able to lob rockets into central Israel, and I was wondering how there's. It seems to me they have to be really degraded by all the Israeli bombing. So I'm wondering how are they still capable of attacking Israel, and because they seem to be so weakened. So how are they strategically?
It was 50 to your point. How can they still shoot rockets if Israel is winning? So today was about 50 missiles struck on Israel. The real answer is Israel is winning in the place where they are. And it's less than half of Gaza. So from the place that they are not controlling, they're doing what they know how to do. And they will continue as a moment of truth, as a moment of strike, as a moment of show up. And a lot of that is on timers, a lot of that are remotely, a lot of that is under hospitals, schools, hotels. So
From underground.
Yeah. Right.
Today, Turkey bombed civilians in Kurdistan. I think it was Kurdistan. The Kurdish, whatever you mean. So they just bombed a bunch of them. And has anybody else heard about that? Or? Yeah, nobody cares. The only
Ukraine is still in war, by the way, in Russia, but nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. The only time they care and protests and the riots across the globe. I'm not surprised that the Middle East is a balagan. What surprises me and takes me aback is Australia, Scandinavia, Paris, London, Boston, New York, LA. When the West is like this, and I'm not talking about the Arabs who live in those countries. It's Christian youths, the Queers for Palestine. Those guys blow my mind.
So your question or statement is why and how people that have nothing related to the conflict or to the war have very strong opinion. So my answer is two parts. A, the number of knowledge is very low, and it's very popular to be in. If you're not pro-Palestine, you're not in. So shirts, I mean, it's a huge industry. Pink shirts, pro-Palestine from the river to the sea, and the very nice pink shirts, again, that's very in. On the other hand, I personally believe that's a miracle because finally, after so many years, we can see clearly the black and white. If you're pro or you're against. So a lot of people that for many years been jumping in between, it's very clear what's the policies they're pro and you're seeing the light. You have one in the back, sorry.
Yeah, I have kind of a two-part question. One is, I just got a news flash that Iran has struck militant bases in Pakistan. It shows a rocket, and this just happens in this flash. So the question related to this is, do you see a larger conflagration
information or World War III, or Middle East war happening, that's going to unfold. That's part A. Part B, the question is, do you think that Hamas has operatives in the United States? Do you think we'll see civil unrest fomented either by Russian actors or Hamas here in the United States? If you have a comment on that.
So I cannot comment because I didn't saw the news. So I will finish here and I will see what's going on. As far as Hamas, so Hamas, it's a movement. Hamas, it's not just a person with and the movement is, I had about 100 employees that are Hamas supported in Israel or LPO supported, and they used to be very good friends of mine, right? I used to feed them, I used to give them, I was their employee. When rockets are throwing above both our heads and my guys and my chefs in the kitchen, they are screaming, dancing, and laughing. Okay? So imagine you have someone who works for you 10 years, he has a big knife, you both in the commercial kitchen, there's a siren in the air, you are scared for your family, and he's laughing at you into your face. You have to show up in the work, and you have to continue giving him a W-2. That's the reality. That was my reality, right? So it's inside a day by day. It's not black and white. So to answer your questions, for sure, the movement is here. The movement is inside universities. The movement is around us. How are they going to react? Depending on us. If we're going to react in the Western way, they will continue to rise as they did in Germany, as they did in France, in Paris. You have major areas that you cannot walk in Paris because same thing happened to Canada, and just see what's going on in New York. And then Christmas Day, they're closing the major airports, the major roads. And then?
Well, the stated objectives was we'll go and kill the Hamas military capability, destroy them. Many in my generation, so I like to get the perspective of your generation, believe, based on evidence, that this mission, the odds that could be accomplished, and say, quote, we achieved the mission, is 1 to 15%. And pressure from Biden would be, come on, get over it. It ain't happening. Let's work on the day after. Which means Tom Friedman's Senwar would run Gaza. According to Tom Friedman, in 3, 4, 5 years, Israel would have to deal with it again. You see a different scenario that we really would, quote, win, achieve the objectives, because your people are running the show now. Mine are giving advice.
Yeah, so the question is, who's the enemy and what is winning? These two questions have been around for many years. Unfortunately, my opinion, it's not a public opinion, Israel did not win a war since 1967. Since the Sixth Day of War, Israel didn't win. They had operations and another operation and another operation. When you're winning, it's very clear. You don't need to, when both sides are declaring we are winning, it's not a win. And again, I'm standing on US soil, and as a US citizen, but unfortunately, every time that Israel listens to the United States, they're not winning. America has their own reasons why they involve in this chaos, and we saw it. But Israel is also divided internally, including the army cabinet. Even today, we had a fight between two major generals. Are we pushing it for our grandchildren, the situation, and following different accommodation, or are we trying to finish the job that we started? So Israel internally don't have that answer, unfortunately. Not in the army, not in the government, and not between the young, older generations. I have friends that serve in many wars. They're older, they saw a lot, they spent many years in army, and they still believe that the PLO and the Palestinian Authority, that's the best that can happen to us. Even though they still have Tanzim, which is an army group, and they believe in the same thing that Hamas believes, just in a nicer way.
So we see this like long-term war of attrition that's kind of chipping away at public opinion, working its way into culture and mainstream media on a global scale. Considering this, next to that, we also know that there are voices worth listening to and understanding this. So where do we, I have my own sources, I pay very close attention, but where do you recommend we seek out these reasonable voices and point people in the direction of learning about the situation more clearly?
Great, and I appreciate the question. I personally read English, Russian, and Hebrew, left and right. So I have at least 6 different sources. That's why I'm trying to hear both voices and keep as much as I can wider range of perspective. I can share later on, what I follow in English, etc., and recommend. But I will say choose 1 or 2 sources and just stick to them, right? Just know if you know them personally or you truly respect them. That's the way I would say.
Some of us speak to people in Israel. We're speaking to a lot of different people and paying attention to some very astute podcasts and certain things. But where do we help other people who don't have quite the interest? Like what do you suggest as a single English source maybe, to point people to understand?
Which platform?
What is it?
Which platform?
So whatever you think. I mean, whether it's I-24 or...
So I-24, Yusuf Hadad is a good friend. I recommend, he's Israeli Arab Christian, a little bit outside of the box. He's going to be on Ben Shapiro's show next week. I made it happen. So it's a lot of things also happening. I-24 is a good source to listen. I would say listen to channel 7. So Sheva in English, they're a little bit more pro-Israel and more religious, but take everything in the right perspective.
Do you know any American-based sources?
Follow the person Hillel Fold. Hillel Fold, he's a friend and he's a tech entrepreneur living in Israel. He lost his brother, Ari Fold, and is doing amazing in the name of his brother, but he's really into putting things in clear, systematically, precise, no footage that people or kids should not see, but really putting the facts in place, A to Z. I think that's going to be a good start. Hillel Fold.
Just reading about his brother today.
Bye-bye, Avi, and okay.
Well, my question is a bit different. I'm wondering if you can switch gears and tell us the partnership, like the endeavors that you're involved in with Arab countries.
Sure. So Arab countries. Israel and Arabs are very similar. We're sharing lots of foods, lots of culture. When I'm meeting an Arab, I can close a lot of gaps that speaking with European or American will take me 5 meetings. So hey אחי, מה קורה? קפה שחור, we can do business. So that helps a lot, right? We're sharing the same Abraham, Yosef, Yusuf, Moshe, Moiz, Riho, Tel Aviv, Al-Quds, Al-Maghrib. We're sharing a lot of things in the same. So as long as a mutual respect is existing, many times it's not in Israel, right? When I'm meeting here in U.S. Arabs, and we're saying, let's not talk about Israel because we both cannot solve it. Sitting here in Starbucks, we can speak for hours, but we both not going to solve it. So let's be entrepreneurs, let's talk business. You have needs, I have needs, let's find a mutual. So as long as we have a mutual respect, a lot of things could happen. That's A. B, a lot of countries like Azerbaijan needs a lot from Israel. Morocco have a lot of business with Israel on water, on agriculture, on acclimation, on a lot of things. Not necessarily on missiles, right? A lot of tech, high tech, and a lot of communication starting off the ground between people, between cousins, between families, so until it gets to the officials that really make it happen. So a long history happens before. So that's usually a little bit of help. When I'm dealing with country, you have to understand, we're dealing now with Africa. You have to understand, Africa is divided to 7 different regions. Every region really plays different role, right? You saw how complicated our little tiny. So Africa, by having someone who really understanding the other culture and can put 2 and 2 together, magic can happen. So, well, you don't talk about this because that doesn't resonate to them. Speak about that's really resonate them. So knowing how to pitch, knowing what's the key points, that's usually my work.
So, where anti-Semitism started way before the establishment. And even UNRWA, there's a lot of Arabs on that committee, and they have tried to say that Israel has no historical connection, to the land of Israel. I mean, we don't, neither do the Christians or Muslims, so that's kind of, but I was thinking about the day after, they talk about the day after the war's over, who's going to manage Gaza. I mean, it's so destroyed. Israel can't rebuild it. The Arab world with all this wealth going to help rebuild it, and who's going to lead it? And then the other question is an ideological question.
Thank you, sir. Gotta go.
I thought I heard a news report where one of the goals is to change the Gazan mindset against Israel. But this has gone on for generations. It's so rooted in, the Muslim relationship and understanding Judaism that I'm wondering how that could even be accomplished if, as you said early on, that little kids are, reading books against Israel and all that. So it seems very complicated that the onus for solving this whole problem seems to be put on Israel alone and really not the rest of the Arab world.
Yeah, so the question is, what's the day after, right? So to be honest with you, I don't know. That's the true answer. What I can suggest based on my knowledge and my reading and my observation is, A, we need to stop thinking in the Western way. They don't care about another kilometer of fishing. They don't care about more prosperity. They don't care about money. It's very hard for us as living in the United States to even understand this mindset. But we need to stop wearing our glasses and trying to see their world through our glasses. That's A. B, we have the United Emirates. They living in Arab called Hamulot, right? They have tribes, not in a negative way, in a positive way. They have legacy, they have the head of the tribes, he have his own rules, he has his own family. In the entrance of the city of Hebron, you have the list of a family, of all the uncles. If you not belong to the family, you're an outsider. That's the way they used to live for many, many years. Gaza is 6 different tribes. My personal suggestion and other experts, bring that back, separate them by their natural families. They will have respect. They will fight between each other as tribes fighting, but they will find the right way, how the entire United Nation will support them, to build them, to re-educate them. No weapons. No weapons.
How does that change the mindset about community? If you strengthen the tribes and you strengthen their self-identity, how does that help Israel's existence?
So they can continue to lie about identity, Palestinian. The end goal for Palestinian, if you want a completion of his personal identity, the way he's been educated, is 0 Jews in Israel. And Al-Aqsa, which I've been in Al-Aqsa multiple times, they playing football and soccer and doing barbecue, right? That's not a respectful thing to do if you really believe that's the holy of the holy. That's the reality. And I have videos that I took personally, and I was shocked seeing that, right? So, took generations for Germany. It took generations for any place that turned over by a different country. It's not going to happen in one day. It's going to take 2-3 generations. But if Israel will cease fire, no more Israel. If Hamas will say tomorrow, no more fighting, Singapore. Slow, but Singapore.
Maybe one more question.
One question.
I am converting, so I'm like really unfamiliar with Israeli things. Would your perspective be considered?
Would I will be considered right wing? In some subject, I will consider myself right. In some subject, I don't know. I'm a little bit outsider. In United States?
What your presentation tonight, would that be considered right wing?
The historical, the geographical part, that's the geographical part. The additional opinion that will be war is war and it's sorry, and that's our place from 1,000 years ago, that'll be right.